In 30 days, this business went from 109K a month to 408K a month. No new offer, no new marketing strategy, no change in ad spend, no new setters, no new closes. The only thing that changed was the way that the setter was handling the conversations inside the DMs. I'm going to walk you through exactly what was happening inside that business before I came in, what I found, the specific change I made, and how that one change nearly quadrupled the revenue in a single month. Because the lesson from this is not just about one business, it is about a mistake that I see constantly across coaching and consulting offers that have sales teams, and it's probably the most expensive, invisible problem a business like this can have. So let's get into it. Real quick, before I get into the story, what I'm about to walk you through is a specific case where one change in the DM conversations nearly quadrupled a business's revenue in just 30 days. If while you're watching this, you start wondering what might be broken inside your own sales process, I offer a free sales process audit, which is probably the fastest way for you to find out. And I want to be clear about what this actually is, because it's not a sales call. It's a call where I will personally go through your entire sales process, find your A+ problem, and then give you the specific solutions that you need to go away and implement. That is the whole point of it. Now, if on the call you want to know more about how we can implement all of it for you, you're welcome to ask and I'll run you through all of it. But if not, it is genuinely a free audit that you can take all the value and go apply it on your own. Link is in the description. Now let me walk you through what happened. The business was a B2B consulting offer where there was actually very good marketing in place. There was a bunch of leads coming in, and the business owner had genuinely created a very good connection with his audience. But then when you look a little deeper, the business was still stuck at 109K per month, where the entire team couldn't really figure out what was going on. The business had one setter and one manager, where the manager had previously set on the offer, and most of you may think, oh, that's an advantage. However, if you promote a manager and that manager doesn't get training on how to be a manager, this is exactly what happens. The manager doesn't know how to fix the problems to get the business to the next level, and then the business just stays stuck at 109K a month. I was pretty good friends with the business owner at the time. He showed me his numbers. I did a couple of consulting calls for his team, and eventually it got to the point where I came to him and I was like, hey, I know what the problem is. I know what needs to be changed in the DMs to fix the problem. And after some back and forth, I ended up taking on that team and managing the entire team. So the first thing I did was look at the DM setters conversion rate, which was at around 9% at the time, which means for every 100 new conversations, 9 qualified calls would be booked. And now you may think, Alex, that's technically within industry standard of 5 to 10%. But then if you look at how good this business's marketing was and how warm the leads were, the conversion rate should have been a lot higher than 9%. And in that gap is where $300,000 a month wasn't getting made. Once I understood the conversion, I then needed to go a step deeper and figure out what was the actual framework and process that was being followed within these conversations that accounted and made up that 9% new convert qualified call percentage. When I looked at the actual framework and the DMs, the problem basically slapped me in the face, because the setter was using a B2C framework in a B2B offer. What I mean by the B2C framework is, think about the conversation being split up in thirds, so 33%, 33%, 33%. The first 33% of the conversation was just spent talking about these businesses' goals. How much money did they want to make in the next 3 to 6 months? What does success look like for them? All these type of things, basically their desired situation. The next 33% was all about the current situation of the business. How are they generating leads? How much money are they currently making? Everything about the current situation. And the last 33% was about the problem that they feel like they are currently facing within the business that's holding them back from making more money. Now, if you're selling a B2C product, whether that's fitness, personal development, BizOp, that is the way for you to actually have the conversation, because B2C people make decisions based on the goals they want to achieve and the life that they want to live. However, in a B2B conversation, the audience you're talking to are business owners. Business owners do not make decisions the same way B2C people do. This is my philosophy on selling to business owners, and it comes from me setting, selling, and managing B2B offers in a bunch of different industries. The basic premise is that you cannot sell business owners on their desired situation and their goal, because what is a business's desired situation? Is to make more money. However, money is a number that will always increase, because maybe a year ago, let's say you take a business owner that's now making 300K per month. Previously, once upon a time, that business owner's goal was 10K per month. And then he hit 10K per month, and then it was 20, then it was 50, then it was 100, then it was 200, and then it was 300. Now his goal's 500. It's always abstract. It's always going to improve. Therefore, it's not like a concrete thing that you can really build a lot of incentive around, because it's always changing. Whereas if you sell a business owner on the problem that he's currently facing, that is actually why business owners make investments and take action into buying certain things, because they understand that if they have a problem in their business, whatever it is, whether it's on the marketing side, the sales side, fulfillment side, whatever it is, they understand that that problem is currently blocking them from accessing a certain amount of revenue until they fix that constraint and problem within their business. That is what actually drives these business owners to make decisions, buying decisions, and that is what you need to be talking about to create incentive in these DM conversations when you're talking to business owners. So the big change that I made within this business was simply the distribution of the conversation, as opposed to it being distributed equally, where it was 33% the goal, 33% about the current situation, and 33% about the obstacle. I simply made it 70% about the obstacle and the problem and the constraint that's holding the business back. Now, questions that were implemented into the conversation were basically like, what do you feel like is currently holding the business back? And this is where you can also get them to categorize their problems based on the industry that you're selling in. How long do they feel like they've been struggling with this problem? What effects are they seeing? How is it affecting their business that they have a lead flow issue or a lead quality issue or a sales issue, whatever it is? After that, what have they tried to fix the problem, and why do they feel like those things haven't worked? Because they still have the problem, which means everything that they've tried hasn't worked and hasn't fixed the problem. Otherwise, they wouldn't still say that they have the problem. Pretty simple, right? The main thing is you need majority of that conversation to be based around the problem and the constraint whenever you're talking to business owners, because again, that's why they make buying decisions. You also need to think about the level of authority that you will now be able to create when you're asking these questions, as opposed to asking business owners about their revenue goals. Because when you're asked these questions, you instantly think that you're talking to an industry expert that has solved this problem for many different people before, because of how specific these questions actually are. And that one change allowed the DM setters conversion to go from 9% to 64% in just 30 days. And to put that into perspective, my portfolio and all the offers that we have on the management, on average, they have a 22% new convert to qualified call percentage. So a 64% was the highest that we had ever produced, and it was all down to where the distribution of the conversation was placed and what the setter focused on the most. In this case, it was the problem, because he was talking to business owners. By proxy, the revenue went from 109K to 408K in just 30 days, which is nearly quadrupling the revenue in the business by just changing how the setter was communicating with the leads in the DMs. Now, here's the broader lesson that you need to understand, because it goes a lot further than the B2B conversation versus the B2C conversation. The biggest thing you need to understand is that what your DM setter is doing in the DMs needs to be customized to the exact type of leads that your marketing is generating, not just whether you're in a B2B industry or a B2C industry. You also need to look at how warm or cold your leads are and customize how much trust and how much incentive your setter is building in the DMs based on how warm or cold your leads are. Because a lot of managers just know one simple framework, and maybe you as the business owner, if you're training your setter, you just rely on one simple framework, which is like goal, current situation, obstacle. The thing you need to understand is that what happens in the DMs and what framework you use needs to be customized on how warm or cold the leads are, because maybe you can use that framework with warmer leads and it converts. But what happens if a colder lead comes in? You're just not going to book them because you're not able to customize the conversation, or your manager's not able to train your setter in a way where the setter can customize the conversation to colder leads. You're never going to get to a 64% conversion rate or a 22%, which is the average in my portfolio, if you do not train your setter to be able to customize these conversations to how warm or cold the leads are, whether it's B2B or B2C or whatever you're doing, whether you're talking to male or female prospects. You need to be able to customize everything to the offer that is being set on. You need to be able to customize everything to the leads that the marketing is generating. And that's basically the problem that was happening with the previous manager before I came in, is that they were using a B2C framework that would be used on a fitness offer or biz op offer. And then you look at why were 91% of leads that were coming in not being set and dropping off in the conversation and leaving the setter unseen or delivered. The way I think about increasing a setter's conversion is that you need to understand how far away a lead is from making a buying decision. And this is really what dictates how warm or cold your audience is. Because if someone is colder, it means that they're further away from making a buying decision, which means what? You need to build more trust and create more incentive to get them closer and closer and closer to making a buying decision, which means you can't just use a script that's 12 questions, because what if you need 15 questions? What if you need 18 questions to get them to where they need to be to actually close that gap so they can make a buying decision? And on the flip side, if you just have 18 questions in this framework, what if they only need 6 questions because they're very, very warm and they're basically at the finish line? And then you execute these 18 questions and now you're just giving them more room to leave you unseen or delivered. Again, it goes back to the customization. When you're able to understand how far away from making a buying decision your leads are, you're able to then customize the conversation your setter has with them, which then allows you to have results like increasing your DM setters conversion from 9% to 64% and increasing a business's revenue from 109k a month to 408k a month in just 30 days. So now you understand exactly what happened in this business and specifically why. There are 2 questions I want you to think about right after this video. The first one is, does your setter know the difference between setting a B2B audience and setting a B2C audience? If you have a B2B offer and you don't have a clear answer to that, that is where you'll start. The second one is, does your framework that your setters are currently using match the leads that your marketing is generating? Not just in general terms, but specifically for your offer, your audience, and how warm or cold your leads actually are. If you're not sure, that's exactly what we do when we walk into a business. We look at the current conversation framework, we look at what these leads are actually replying to, and where the mismatch is. We then rebuild the SOP to fit the specific audience's needs in order for them to make a buying decision. If you want us to do that for your business, the link to book a call is in the description, where I'll look at exactly what your setters are doing in your DMs right now and tell you exactly what needs to change and why. If you want to understand the full system we run across every team we manage, I broke it all down in a free course on this channel. That is the first video, everything is in there. Subscribe if you want to see more breakdowns like this one, and I'll see you in the next video.